Welcome back, everybody, to another week's episode of Top of the List. This is RB coming at you with my co-host Dom, and the show we're going to be discussing this week, one that I think caught us both a little bit by surprise and how much we really enjoyed this one, and you know what critics enjoyed as well, 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes. This, of course, being the Netflix original miniseries, The Queen's Gambit. Really great series. Dom got me to watch it. So, Dom, I'm going to throw it over to you now to talk a little bit about The Queen's Gambit and your thoughts. And then whenever you're ready, you can throw it on back to me.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like Ryan said here, definitely that 100% on Rotten Tomatoes caught my eye for sure. Not necessarily a rare score for a TV show to earn, but from what I had seen or heard of this show, it was basically next to nothing. And for it to get that much praise was certainly kind of like unheard of. I didn't know many of the actors in the show, except for, of course, the lead actress, Anya Taylor-Joy. She was in one of my favorite films, right? I don't think you've ever seen it, The Witch.
I did. I have not seen it, but I knew you were going to bring that up because I was looking up what she had been in, and I was like, oh, that's right, Dom. That's like one of Dom's favorites.
Yeah, Robert Eggers, guy that directed The Lighthouse. Yeah, that's The Witch is a great film. Go check her out in that one. She has, really great performance in that one as well. But we're talking about The Queen's Gambit, of course. And like Ryan said, this one surprised me because this is a show about chess, which doesn't sound very exciting at all. But once you start watching it, you can't look away. I think, Ryan, you were telling me you watched episode 1. You couldn't take your eyes off the screen from what you told me.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It was a bit of a bummer. I watched the first episode. It was my birthday that weekend. I had family coming into town, and I was almost bummed out because I had to go 3-4 days before I could watch another episode, and then quickly finish the show up in the next couple of days because, man, oh man, this is, bravo. Let's see who it is. Scott Frank, our director, and then Scott Frank and Alan Scott, the creators of the series. I mean, the way they make a show, about chess, I don't think I could ever sit down and be locked in and enjoy watching a chess match. But the way the suspense they build around these chess matches and then the story around and surrounding our main character, Beth Harmon, just are so intriguing. And, like I said, my eyes were glued to the screen. I could not take them off.
Yeah, absolutely. You put it perfectly. They make something as mundane as what you think a chess match would be very thrilling. I mean, even the sequences where they're doing speed chess at that point, or when she's playing like 5 people at the same time, it's thrilling. Like, it's really enthralling. I really enjoyed that. So I think let's just maybe go down the categories. And if you ever feel like you want to bring up a specific episode, RB, go ahead. If there's a standout for you. I think I have one big standout episode that I can think of, but I think we should maybe, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say beforehand, and we were talking about this in, pre-production for this episode. I think we both felt very similarly that I don't know that I want to single out one episode or the other. I really loved how this film flowed on a singular timeline. I felt like all one large motion picture rather than a mini series. I mean, granted, obviously, it would have been a 7-hour long film. But I definitely felt like just the way it went, I don't know that I would pick out one episode or the other because it was all part of the same story. It's not like many of the episodes I felt like had offshoots. They felt like they were all in one timeline.
Yeah, absolutely. It really did feel like one really long movie. It really flowed excellently. So I think we should start off with what we always like to talk about here, and that is, spoiler free, of course. Let's talk about these performances. Namely our main character, Anya Taylor-Joy, playing Beth Harmon. She is truly fantastic in this show, I think. Really carries it through and through. And also want to give a big mention in, try to go chronologically here. In episode 1, the younger actress that plays the younger version of herself in the orphanage, also a excellent child performance there, and all the other orphan children.
Absolutely, yeah. Isla Johnston, who plays young Beth, of course, even before we see Annabeth Kelly. First of all, let's say, what a great casting job. Getting the 3 of those. I mean, all acting very similarly, looking very similarly. And then I think the mother, too, Anya Taylor-Joy's mother, in the few times we see her, of course, her birth mom, I'm referring to, not her adopted mother. I guess that's a spoiler. Sorry.
That's okay. No, that's good.
But yeah, I think they did an excellent job casting. They're very believable as family members, people coming from the same genes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, episode one, fantastic episode. And then, Anya Taylor-Joy takes over starting in episode two mostly. And from there on, I thought it was, just flowed beautifully from episode to episode, as you had said. Um, I think we should talk about another performance that I didn't expect to hit me that well, because in episode one, when you first meet this character, who of course I'm talking about is her mentor, the janitor gentleman that
Yeah,
starts to
Mr.
teach her.
Shibley.
Exactly, yeah, and
Yeah.
and he teaches her chess and everything, and he has an understated performance. It's great, but there's little tinges of he believes in her, he actually cares for her, and I love that. But what just to be vague, when we do revisit this character later in the show, that hit me like a truck. I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely. A huge, huge, I think probably the biggest emotional scene in this series.
yeah, absolutely. So, I think we talked about directing, we talked about story pretty as much as we could. We talked about the acting. Any notable acting?
Yeah, I do want to call a couple of the attention of a couple of actors in this film.
Yeah.
First of all, the performance by Moses Ingram, who played Jolene.
Hmm.
I believe it was the same actress who played both, 13-year-old Jolene, and then later on when she comes back, a much older Jolene, Moses Ingram. And I thought this was one of the standout roles, sort of if you want to look at, she's not really a lead role because she's only in 2 or 3 episodes, but really just like a featured player. And I think she definitely plays a major part in the turning point of our main character, Beth Harmon. I
Yeah.
really liked her performance in, I guess that was episode 6 when she comes back. She's in episodes 1 and 2 as well. So big
Yeah.
fan of
And
Moses Ingram. Go ahead.
how about you and I are both Harry Potter fans. How about our boy
Yeah.
Dudley showing up?
Yeah. Harry Melling
Yeah.
as Harry Belzic, right? Something like that.
Something like
Harry.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I really loved his performance as well as Thomas Brody Sangster as Benny Watts.
Oh
So,
yeah.
sort of these, at the time, chess gods that were somewhat humbled, and to see that transition in just such a short period of time was really cool to see from both of them.
Yeah, totally. And that whole sequence where she first gets to participate in the Kentucky chess tournament, I loved that. I
Oh
think it
yeah.
was so fantastic.
Well, I
And
think the
yeah,
tournaments, I would put it to the likes of, and some people may call this a stretch, but I'm completely bought in on this theory that this is a sports thriller.
yeah, totally.
Just like when you watch a film about, a football season and you're watching in and out the games, those are the exciting moments, or you're watching same thing, basketball. The film that comes to mind is Miracle, the film about the 1980 U.S. hockey team. And like the most exciting scenes of that film are the montage-esque scenes of each game being played in this Olympic run. I would compare those to the likeness of these chess tournaments as the most exciting scenes in this film, and watching all the opponents as well as Beth Harmon.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's great. I think, while we're talking about, story beats and, a few of these sequences, I like the way that they, not everybody knows the rules of chess. Not everybody knows a lot about chess. And I like that our character, she clearly is adept at chess, right? But the way that they introduced in this first tournament in Kentucky, why are they writing things down on the pad? How does the clock work? Those are things that I didn't know, but
Yeah,
I
me
like
neither.
that she didn't either. Our main
Mhm.
character didn't either. I think that's really
Yeah.
clever as a way to kind of gift the audience that kind of information, just the basics. Obviously we don't get the moves. Maybe the Queen's Gambit is the only one that is the most explained, and the Sicilian defense I think is brought up a
Right.
lot
Yeah.
as well.
Mhm.
And those kind of, I love that you can learn about those, and if you want to, you can look into it more afterwards. The show, I really enjoyed that. So I think we should kind of stop here, and I think we might have spoiled a few things already. Obviously, I think this is one of those ones where we put spoiler right in the title.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So
I did want to
yeah.
real quickly. I'm sorry. There's one more actor or actor that I wanted to call out just for a brilliant performance, and that would be Marielle Heller, playing Alma Wheatley. Once again, spoiler, the adopted mother of Beth Harmon. And I really loved her story arc and her evolution, from sort of, distant, well, we adopted this child and, to fill our hearts where, the one that we never had was, and now, she's the reason her marriage fell apart. But, her adaptation into growing to love, love Beth, and Beth to love her as well, I thought was a brilliant transition. So I did want to bring that up as well, because I think it takes a great actress in order to do that in just a few episodes, and she was able to do it very believably.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. So I think we've talked a lot about it. Before we get into specific standout moments and episodes, and obviously we want to talk about the finale and the overall meaning and implications of what this show achieves. I think we should give our scores. We haven't given our scores yet. I'm going to lead off here. I think I really enjoyed this one. It's up there with some of my favorite Netflix shows. If you guys know, we did do a Netflix original show, so this is kind of, adding that on here. Not sure if it would be in my top 3 or my top 5, but I am pretty sure I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. Pretty high praise. I do think it's on the level of this other show that also hit me pretty hard on Netflix, Unbelievable, which is about the rape of a young woman and the implications of this case, which I thought that is on that kind of level. Even I would say, if Stranger Things, I think I gave that a 9. I think this is a step above Stranger Things, definitely, for sure. But I'm not sure if it's on the level, because the only 2 shows I think I've given a 10 out of 10 are Dark and The Haunting of Hill House. Still going to rate those higher. And I think if I were to compare this to Daredevil, which I also gave a 9.5, I would pick Daredevil just because I love superheroes, but that's just a personal choice. So 9.5 for me. Sorry to walk on your feet there, RB. What's your score?
No, it's all good. Yeah, I'm going to give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Definitely above a great rating, which would be a straight up 8 out of 10. But I wouldn't quite put it as fantastic just because it's not for everyone. Like I said, I'm a huge sports film guy. I definitely was able to take that away from this. But, maybe for some people, this isn't their cup of tea. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. For those of you who remember our Netflix original episode, I hadn't watched nearly as many as Dom. I would put this one right outside of my top 3, but definitely in my top 5 with an 8.5 out of 10.
Excellent. So, I want to bring up a few standout moments for me before we get into our overall thoughts and implications on the theme and the meaning. And also, we got to bring up any negatives we have. So actually, maybe we should do that first, huh, RB? So,
Okay.
You give it an 8.5, which is a positive score. What takeaways did you have as far as negatives?
Yeah. I think my biggest negative was, and I know we're gonna butt heads a little bit about this one. I thought there were just a lot of, I don't know, maybe if non sequitur is the right word here, but a lot of plot lines that I felt like they brought in and that I thought were going to play a bigger role in the end game of this series. And in reality, when it came down to it, they did not, in my book. I know we disagree on this one, but the whole plot line with the mother, I wanted to know more about that background a little bit. I thought that was very just open and closed. We got little vignettes throughout the series, but not so much a full story about her background. We're going to disagree on this one, but that argument scene between the mother, I don't think it was her father. I know we disagree on this.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm mistaken. But he looked a lot older. We had seen the father in other scenes, when he's arguing outside the trailer with the mother. I thought it was someone else, and I thought that was never sort of, that was a loose end that was never tied off. And then, we both talked about this as well. I think this film or this series, because it wasn't based on a true story, it was a lot of it was put a lot more simply than what the implications would have been to a major chess tournament and chess match between 2 grandmasters, one from the U.S. and one from the Soviet. There would be so many political implications. And there wouldn't have been, so much respect for Beth Harmon, because she was American, and the Americans and the Soviets in the 1960s hated each other. I mean, there were so many actual chess matches that happened at those times that were, like I said, they were political. they were more than just chess matches. And I think it oversimplified that storyline a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to rebut you there on that one. As far as the mother storyline, I'm going to say, yeah, I totally see where you're coming from. But, they didn't follow through on it that much until, the final episode. We get to see that scene, like you said, revisiting what I think is the father, what you think is someone else. I think it's critical to the character's arc, of Beth Harmon's arc, because that's her trauma. That was her mother killed herself in front of her. Her mother took those tranquilizers, and that kind of drove her insane, or maybe it was a pre-existing condition. And I think in the back of Beth Harmon's head throughout this whole story, she's thinking, maybe I'm just like my mother, and I'm also crazy, and I'm not as good as everyone else, and I don't deserve anything more than what my mom ended up deserving, which was she, killed herself. And that was kind of a depressing note. And I think that is crucial to why it's so triumphant that she beats Borgov at the end. She's able to overcome her illness of, alcoholism and drug abuse, and see that on the ceiling in that final scene, she doesn't need those tranquilizers to be special. She's already special, and she's already unique, and she's, becomes the best of the best at the end. I think that was really magnificent that they were able to achieve that. Uh, and then I think you had one more point, but I can't remember.
Yeah, so I just brought up as well the implications that it was oversimplified, the implications of a chess match between the USSR and the United
Yeah.
States. We get to hear, oh, the Secret Service is going with you,
Right.
and
Yeah.
oh, when he's in America, the KGB is always behind him. But that's like all that's ever touched on it, and there's not much talked about in the sense that this is in the heart of the Cold War.
Yeah.
The Russians wouldn't be cheering and wanting the autograph of Beth Harmon, would be my understanding. Obviously, we didn't live through the Cold War, so maybe I'm reading a little too far into it there, but I felt like that was a little far-fetched.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me into where we kind of agree. That final win, while it's fantastic that she's triumphant and everything, it almost feels like, I think what you're trying to get at here is, it feels like they celebrate it too much.
Mm-hmm.
The guy from their country lost. Sure, she has become the best of the best, but maybe it felt like too much for me. It felt like too much of a fantasy, like almost it was a dreamlike sequence. Whereas,
Especially culminating with when she's walking through the park and all the
absolutely,
old men who are playing chess recognize her and want to shake
absolutely.
her hand. They would be frustrated. They would be angry that this American from, capitalist USA just defeated their, well-polished, well-oiled chess machine, so to speak.
And that was kind of my main negative against the show. I think I was originally planning on giving it the same score as you, Ryan, if not an 8, because I thought it was a true story. I thought this was a true story, and they do an excellent job of making it feel like a true story.
Absolutely,
but it's a novel.
Yes.
It's a novel, and I think that's why I ended up giving it a 9.5, because I could forgive that. I could kind of forgive that fantasy-like ending, because it's a fiction, it's a novel. So that's kind of where I drew that line.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear where you're coming from, and I agree, and I think that's why I forgave this. I told you when I first started watching this show, I like films that are either based on true stories. I'm a huge fan of biopics, or films that are so far-fetched that that they have to be fiction. And when we get to this blurred line of historical fiction, so to speak, something that could have happened, didn't happen, it just frustrates me because I wanted it to actually happen. I wish this actually occurred. But that being said, this was such a good show that I can forgive that too.
Yeah, totally. I think we're on the same page there. So I do want to bring up a couple more points that I have here.
Go right ahead, yeah.
Number one, I did say earlier, I do think there's a standout episode. I think that standout, maybe not episode, but sequence is when she returns to the orphanage after all these episodes.
Okay, yep. So that was episode 6 and I think that was the episode I was referring to when we were talking about Moses Ingram playing Jolene, who comes back to help her. Yeah, I think that is the turning point of Beth Harmon's character, where we finally realize if she cleans herself up, she will be able to defeat Borgov. And I definitely think that is the standout signature episode of this series. Of course, the finale is great. Episode 1 is great, the premiere, the pilot. But yes, I do think that's the signature episode outside of those two, which everyone expects.
And standout emotional moment we were referencing earlier on when Beth Harmon goes down into where she played chess with Mr.
Scheibel.
Mr. Scheibel, and she looks at his refrigerator and it's covered in every chess match she's won, every news article she's been in, and man, that hit me like a truck. I was crying, dude. I was
Yeah,
very
but
emotional.
we even find out that's been true about Jolene too. Afterwards, they're playing squash together, and she goes, "You're my guardian angel." And she goes, "No, I'm not. You think Scheibel was the only one who was following you? I have every newspaper clipping you too. You know, people followed her.
Yeah.
Everyone who from her past did support her."
She was an underdog, and I think that's what's really great about it. It's another underdog story.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my main standout moment I wanted to bring up. Then I kind of want to talk about the implications. I want to see what you think about this, RB, because I like to read a lot of film criticism, and one headline kind of caught my eye where this is kind of a big step forward for, yeah, and it's crucial to the meaning of the show, that this show isn't just about Beth Harmon being the best woman chess player. It's not about being the best in a certain category. It's not about being the best disabled player. It's not about being the best at a certain thing. Not being like, you could say whatever you want. You could say Steph Curry is the best 3-point shooter of all time, but is he the best basketball player of all time? No. This show, essentially what I took away from it is there's a difference between being the best in a category versus being the best period,
Right.
which is what Beth Harmon wanted, which is what really motivated me and I thought hit me well about the meaning of this one. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. It is all about her strive for greatness. And you're right. That's why we see her play one female opponent the entire series. And it's in her very first match at that Kentucky State tournament. And she goes, they paired us together.
Yeah.
Because we're women. That's the only reason why. And
yeah.
she wins that match in 8 moves and goes and drops off the ticket.
Yeah.
I thought that was really something, It was
Me too.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And it doesn't touch too much on her femininity in this film. It's a film about a chess player. It doesn't matter that she's male or female. You're absolutely right,
Yeah.
And I think that may be shown in some of her relationships too.
Totally.
I mean, we see her, her first relationship, so to speak. I guess it's not really her first relationship, but her first sort of sexual encounter at the frat house in that college when she's 17, and it means nothing to her. And then she's, she just kind of sleeps around. She even, sleeps with the French model when she's in Paris. It's like that doesn't even, matter. It's just scenes that are there, and I think that proves it. That she's her. She's number one, no matter what, whether she's a man, whether she's a woman.
Yeah, totally. And I think the other meaning I kind of got from too, that maybe it's a bit on the nose, but I also really like the comparison that was made in the show when they're explaining why Borgov is the best of the best. And it has to do with the difference between Russia and America. And they explained that, the Russians are a team. They work together after every match.
Right.
They come together and, talk about everything so that he could be the best. Whereas America is all about individualism. And eventually that's what it takes for Beth Harmon to beat Borgov. Sure, she does look up and eventually use her special talent. She is unique, but it's also the fact, which I thought was a great sequence, when she goes back to her room and she sees the gentleman that was, I think he was bisexual, and he had kind of broken her heart. And then she gets the call, and it's all the people that she had met along the way that made friends with her. Like, she truly wasn't alone, even though she was an orphan. I thought that was a really big emotional payoff. What did you think about that kind of sequence there?
Yeah, absolutely. An exciting scene, sort of the 11 o'clock moment that you'll see in any sports drama, that, all hope seems lost, and then one thing happens, a coach says something, gives a big speech, and that's the turning point. That's exactly what we have here when she gets that phone call, and Benny's there, and Henry's there. The two guys who registered her for her first chess tournament that she sees at all the tournaments are there, helping her. It's everyone that she, once again, I think that's a big part of this film. Everyone on her path supported her, in her path supported her.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's about it, and I think maybe we could also talk about, that's why that last scene was so cool, is when all those old Russian men are applauding her because that's what all she wanted to do. Was she had the ability to see what chess was truly about. And, it wasn't about what was going on with, Borgov or anything. Sure, that was for being the greatest. But really, she was, I guess maybe I'm kind of fuzzy on this meaning there, but I think it was that, real chess isn't played in those scenarios. I think they said something along these lines. It's played in the park. These old men play it. That's real chess. Something along those lines. Do you remember a line or something like that?
I don't remember the exact line, but yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, totally. So I think that was cool too, and that plays into her being the greatest of the greatest. Is she just wanted to be respected and not be alone because she was left alone and she was an orphan, and that was the meaning at the end. So I don't want to ramble on too long. Is there any other final points you want to make, RB?
Yeah, I think that actually ties back to my statement about the surrealism of the Russians supporting her, and you're absolutely right that she proved that she was the greatest of all time. You look at it, you're a Lakers fan, you can still respect Michael Jordan. I'll use that analogy. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess chess in Russia at that time was like basketball. I mean, you see it in the park. That's what you'd assume would be in an American park. Everyone would be out shooting hoops. So that's the equivalence. And whether or not she was American, Russian, like I said with Jordan, whether he played for the Bulls or the Lakers, if you're in Los Angeles and you see Michael Jordan, you can't help but stand up, applaud, and ask for his autograph because she proved that she was the greatest.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we should leave it on that note. So, this is our review. Let us know what you thought of the Queen's Gambit. Was it worth all the praise? Was it worth the 100% Rotten Tomatoes score that it received? I certainly think so. I think RB, you'd probably agree that it deserved a
Yeah,
high score. So,
absolutely.
any other Netflix originals you're watching right now that we should check out? Let us know down in the comments below. Of course, what you thought on this show as well. And check out our last few episodes as well, and keep an eye out for more Mandalorian reviews coming at you. Might come out a little bit later this week for us because we have a little bit of some plans that we need to fulfill on Friday. RB's busy, I'm busy. So we might have to postpone our Mandalorian review this week, but we'll be sure to get it out as soon as we possibly can. And if you guys do follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and RB, if you follow him on Twitter, maybe we'll tweet out our thoughts too. I know that's a lot of things YouTubers do often. So, I'll give out my impressions for sure on Twitter. I don't mind doing that, or even in an Instagram story if you guys follow me there, which is Dom Gonzalez 48, DOMGONZALES, and then 48. So, I'll tweet out my impressions on Mandalorian episode 4. And then we'll obviously get a video review as soon as we possibly can. So RB, where can they follow you, and what do we have on our log? I can't remember anything past Mandalorian reviews.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram at RB_the_SID, or on Twitter at RB with the call. Yep, Mandalorian's what's coming up next. I just, sprouted an idea, talking about it 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Maybe we come out and we'll do a review of the films that have received 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, because there are not many of them. I was just looking through them right now, but a couple of our favorites, Citizen Kane, of course, Singing in the Rain, The Kid, a great Charlie Chaplin film. So maybe we'll do an episode on our reviews of 100% scoring films on Rotten Tomatoes. Or, of course, you can always, message us on Instagram or Twitter, or right here, leave it in the comments on YouTube, what you want to hear or see from us.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're listening to the audio version, go ahead and give us a 5-star review, whatever you feel comfortable doing. And, I'm not sure how Spotify, but we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. So leave us some positive feedback there as well. With that said, Mandalorian review coming up, and, a few new movies releasing soon. Maybe we'll take a look at those. Certainly, RB, I'm not sure if you saw the news, but Wonder Woman coming to HBO Max. Definitely going to want to check that one out, Wonder Woman 84. So definitely that, and Pixar's Soul. Those are two we can guarantee for you guys to come, because those are definitely on our list to watch, top of the list for us to watch. So with that said, you guys have an excellent week, and look forward to those Mandalorian reviews, and stay fresh out there, guys. We'll see you then. Later.